Election day in America, a weary nation heads to the polls. Will President Trump get 4 more years? Will the Dems get their blue wave? And what comes after? Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for Tuesday, November 3rd. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Carlo, we made it to election day.
We sure did, Jill. Whew, I'm a ball of nerves. I'm excited. A little bit of a bad omen, I think. I destroyed my work computer last night. The whole thing broke. The screen shattered. It's amazing how those things always happen at literally the worst possible time, right? It's just that you can always count on it.
We lost power last night and our internet because the weather was just crazy. The wind was terrible. And I feel like, so I tweeted, it was the night before the election, and I have no power or internet. And you tweeted back, and I just broke my laptop. Here we go.
But hey, we made it. We got a podcast for you. Let's do this.
All right. Back on Inauguration Day in 2017, President Trump officially filed the paperwork to run for a second term. This was far earlier than any of his predecessors, the idea being to get a head start on fundraising. Well, now, about 47 months later, and in the middle of a pandemic that's killed about 250,000 Americans, voters will have their say in whether he gets that chance. The presidency, both chambers of Congress, and 80% of state legislative seats up for grabs. Nearly 100 million people have already voted. Tensions are running high across the country. Business districts in major cities like New York City and Los Angeles are boarded up ahead of potential unrest. Cheddar's final pre-election poll shows Joe Biden's national lead has tightened a bit to 8 points. He remains all but assured, though, to win the popular vote, but that doesn't mean really anything.
Diddly.
The first polls close tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. Georgia, South Carolina, Vermont, Virginia, Kentucky, Carlo, and then it is off to the races.
Are you pumped up? I love Election Day. I really do. Maybe it's the news nerd in me. I was playing. Oh God, my wife is going to kill me. I was playing the NBC News election music last night while we were making dinner.
You are such a nerd. Are you serious with this?
No, I love it. I love it. NBC has the best election music. I tweeted out the link if anybody wants to play it today to get jazzed up. But yeah, on a serious note, there's going to be a lot of misinformation going around these next couple of days on social media. If you don't have to be online, I would sort of, consider staying off social media if you can. A little bit of good news for Democrats. It's funny. We always say like it's good news for Democrats. It's actually good news for democracy. We told you yesterday about a legal drama that was playing out in Texas that would have tossed 127,000 ballots in Houston that had already been cast because they were cast at drive-in locations that the state Republicans were saying were illegal in this sort of like very obtuse legal issue. The judge in that case, who was a favorable judge for the GOP, he tossed it. He said this is ridiculous, basically. The Republicans appealed, but it was rejected again, meaning that those votes in Harris County, Texas, are safe. They will be counted. And I guess I should also mention, Jill, Cheddar is doing live coverage tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. It starts. I will be there. I will be in the office. I'll be sort of in charge of the exit polling. So if you're able to watch us, please do so. Give us, write me some feedback. It's going to be a long night.
So the clearest electoral path for Joe Biden runs right through Pennsylvania. But if President Trump wins Pennsylvania and its 20 electoral votes, all bets are off. So that's why both candidates spent the waning hours of the campaign in the state. President Trump said that cheating in Pennsylvania would lead to violence in the streets, an unsubstantiated claim that was flagged by Twitter. He promised to go to court over absentee ballots. Joe Biden stumped alongside Lady Gaga outside of Heinz Field in Pittsburgh last night, asking voters to put an end to the Trump presidency.
Yeah, and remember, Pennsylvania is very unlikely to be called tonight because the state has about 2.4 million mail-in ballots that they're not even able to start counting until later today. So do not expect Pennsylvania results tonight. I think a sort of one thing to watch maybe instead of that is North Carolina because they'll report relatively early. North Carolina is going to be interesting. If Biden wins North Carolina, it's more or less over. That's obviously a big if, but just a little rule of thumb tonight for the early polls coming in on the East Coast.
Okay, so North Carolina is what you're watching. Other experts have said Florida, of course, is the big one. If that goes easily for Biden, it's pretty much over.
Yeah,
If
I
it
think
goes for
that's
Trump,
there's no chance of that happening. Yeah.
yeah, no, and if it goes for Trump easily, it's a pretty good sign for him. The other thing is to look at some of the margins, right? So even in states that Trump is likely to win, right, like a Kentucky, where he won by huge margins back in 2016, if that margin was to be, just say he wins easily, but it's by a smaller margin, that could be a bad sign for him for the night. Vice versa, if he continues to have a huge margin there, and in Indiana, for example, and states that he easily won last time around, it could mean he could have a good night. So there's little things that you can watch here and there.
But that's a great point because it'll tell us about turnout.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'll tell us about turnout, right? Is this going to be the big turnout night the Democrats wanted? Are the Republicans going to get this sort of last-minute election day in-person surge? So yeah, very good point.
In true 2020 fashion, though, there's, of course, a ton of other big news today. So Dr. Deborah Birx of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, she wrote an internal memo on the eve of the election that the U.S. is entering, quote, the most concerning and most deadly phase of the pandemic, and she's pleading for much more aggressive action from the federal government. This is pretty notable. Dr. Birx has been really cautious when it comes to going against the president.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that. She has been quite cautious. I wonder if that means that she thinks that that he's going to lose. Obviously, anytime these internal memos get leaked, they know they're going to be leaked if they don't leak them themselves. So she wanted this to come out. And look, it's true. I mean, we are entering a very bad phase. Massachusetts is about to institute a new stay-at-home order starting this Friday. Residents of that state are going to be ordered to stay home between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Non-essential businesses must close by 9:30. Masks in Massachusetts now mandatory in public, even if you can practice social distancing. That's a little bit notable. Over in El Paso, Texas, we've been telling you about the situation down there. A fourth mobile morgue, has arrived in that city where area hospitals are at capacity. The United States 7-day average of cases has jumped nearly 100% over the last month. We're in about as bad a place in terms of cases as we possibly could be heading into this election.
Even in New York, by the way, the positivity rate yesterday was 1.7%, which is still, I mean, we are talking places in the Midwest where the positivity rate is like 40%, and that's not an exaggeration. Yeah. So we're still less than 5%, which is a kind of a barometer. But we're inching back up, and it's hard. Other states, you can't ban people, you can't do a quarantine to people from Connecticut or New Jersey because we just have so many people commute back and forth every day.
Right.
Connecticut numbers are going up. So nowhere is really safe, unfortunately.
What is the rate at which New York City public schools automatically close? Is it 3% or 5%?
I think it's 9%. I think 5%.
Oh, is it 9%? Okay.
There's a 5% and a 9%. I'm not sure what's what, but okay. Anything over like 4%. I mean, as a parent, even I would say if it's over 4%, do I just keep my daughter home? I don't know. There's no good answers here, but at least we do have a set. At least Cuomo has set a set guideline for what it's. When you can go to school, when you can't.
And he's also been saying that he's now basically getting rid of the whole idea that people from out of state have to quarantine for 14 days because nobody's doing that. So they're saying now that if you come to New York, you have to show 2 negative tests. I believe we're the first state in the country to have that rule.
The thing is just it's entirely unenforceable. So I mean, it's just up to people to be doing the right thing.
Yep.
Okay, overseas, at least 4 people have been killed in a terrorist attack in central Vienna. One gunman was killed by police. He was wearing a fake explosive vest. He was described by officials as an ISIS sympathizer. A massive manhunt underway across the Austrian capital as police look for possible accomplices.
Yeah, the area where shots were first reported when this was unfolding yesterday afternoon, a bustling neighborhood in the central part of Vienna, near the main synagogue in that city. It's unclear if that was the target. I think it's a little bit too early to know. This seemed at first, when I was following it, like a coordinated attack. Now I'm not so sure. It may have just been a lone wolf. There were reports of multiple gunmen in multiple locations. But that's a little bit unclear now. That often happens in these cases, right? There's so much confusion at first, so you get all these, you get reports of multiple shooters, multiple attackers. So anyway, we don't really know yet. This is still developing. This happened, by the way, on the last night in Austria before a new nationwide COVID lockdown. So there were a lot of people out on the streets, sort of trying to get one last, restaurant meal in. But a very sad scene unfolding in that absolutely gorgeous city.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a look. We know what's happening in Paris right now.
Yep.
So definitely something to keep an eye on. All right, one of the strongest November hurricanes ever is about to make a catastrophic landfall along the northern coast of Nicaragua. Over the last 24 hours, Hurricane Eta has exploded into a Category 4 storm, nearing Category 5 status as it approaches Central America. Eta has strengthened faster than any storm on record this late into the season.
This was a Category 1 this time yesterday. This is unbelievable. This storm, yeah. If you have family in Central America, this is something to watch. The storm is going to track slowly over basically all of Central America this week, bringing potentially life-threatening flooding, storm surge, and landslides. Not just to Nicaragua. We're talking about Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, and then it could reconstitute itself in the Gulf of Mexico. It's a little too early to tell. But needless to say, Jill, it is not normal to have a Category 4 hurricane in November in the Atlantic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to at least one fun story today, Carlo. Baby Shark, the earworm of a nursery rhyme that's basically the bane of any parent's life. Now the most viewed video ever on YouTube, the catchy kids tune hit 7.04 million views, eclipsing Despacito, which was the former reigning champion.
Billion views, actually. I miswrote that.
Million? Oh, sorry, no, billion. Million didn't seem that high. I should have caught that. Million, please. Kim Kardashian gets that when she sneezes.
Yeah, exactly. Jill, I thought of you when I saw this story yesterday, because I think that the first time that we did this podcast together, you had just come off of your maternity leave. And you had, like, I mean, I hope you don't think that this is offensive to say, but you were in like total baby brain mode, and we were talking about Baby Shark, I think, because it had just come out or something, and you were singing it, and I just remember thinking that was very funny. But yes, Baby Shark now will be in my head all day, along with the NBC election music. So thank you for that.
It is funny, Carlo, because we didn't really know each other before I had my baby, right? Like, we met really when I came back from maternity leave. We kind of knew each other a little bit in the office, because I trained you on Need2Know stuff for my maternity leave. And then, yeah, you only know me as a mom. And I just, on such a light aside, you were talking to somebody who knew me pre-momhood, and they were like, oh, you should have known Jill. She was so fun.
Yeah. Well, I've said it before. I think that you and I would have been thick as thieves in the old days, right?
Yeah, now we're like going to bed at 8, parenthood.
It's probably a good thing we didn't know each other in our 20s.
We may not have made it here. Okay, and finally, I have a bit of a reading assignment for everybody. Mitch Albom, the best-selling author, one of my absolute favorites, Tuesdays with Maury, a book that probably changed my life, actually. He delivers a harsh but probably necessary scolding of the American people in his latest newspaper column, which is a critique of our political and media landscape. He writes, he said, I was asked if I was going to write an article about the election, and I don't need to write an article about the election because clearly early voting proves that people are interested, but it's what happens after that matters. He says, we have all been behaving badly. I don't mean every single American citizen, but I do mean wide swaths of us in all states and in all walks of public life, politics, media, businesses, and entertainment. We dog each other, we point fingers, we fight over candidates, judges, medical experts, masks, almost always these days, exaggeration is chosen over understatement, anger over calm, mean over kind. The truth is, our future won't be determined by who we choose to lead us this week. It will be determined by how we act after we do. Well said.
Yeah, well said. We linked to that column in today's newsletter if you want to check it out in the Detroit Free Press. Before we sign off, Jill, I'm going to say something that is extremely corny. You are about to enter the cheese zone here, so I'm warning.
Thank you for the warning.
You now. Yeah, I wrote this. I wrote some notes to myself last night. When I was just, I don't know, I get a little bit emotional on election day. I mean, make fun of me all you want. It's fine. I really do. This is the first presidential election in which I've been married, and I've been thinking a lot about my wife these last couple of days, and she is going to get absolutely furious at me. No, she won't get furious, but she will be annoyed at me for saying this because she doesn't like when I talk about her so much on the podcast. But I'm sorry, Becky, I just have to say it. And I've been thinking about her and about how she was born. She was born into communist Romania back in the 1980s, right? She grew up poor in a society where it was really a foregone conclusion, right, that the entire government apparatus was corrupt, full of cronyism, existed essentially solely to enrich itself at the expense of the people. And she told me how she used to watch American television on their satellite TV, and she would daydream about moving to the United States, right? This amazing place over the rainbow, which really felt like to her, where the government worked for the people and not the other way around, at least most of the time, right? Where truth and justice were the norm, at least most of the time. Where she could get on a plane after she graduated high school, literally come to a place she's never been to go to a college that she had never seen, with no money, and literally just the clothes on her back and a little suitcase. And she knew that if she just worked her ass off, she would have as good a chance of making it here as either you or I, us lucky enough to have been born in the right place at the right time in history. I feel like that's what's on the ballot today. And I would never normally say that. There's never been an election like this where I've literally felt like the concept of what I believe to be America is at stake. And I know that people are going to say, look, this is another liberal media hack showing his bias. Maybe that's true. I don't know. But to me, this has nothing really to do with partisanship or Democrats versus Republicans. This has everything to do with people like Becky and I think all the other kids out there like her around the world that look to us, right, whether we like it or not, to be a force for good in the world, in a place of opportunity for anyone who has the grit to want it bad enough. And I say that only because I love this country. I love living here. I love being an American. Everything that this country has given to me, which is to say my wife, who I wouldn't have met had it not been for the largesse and the generosity and the very idea of the United States. In 1787, just to leave us on a sort of historical note, Ben Franklin was leaving the Constitutional Convention, and somebody shouted at him, "Dr. Franklin, what have we got, a monarchy or a republic?" He famously shot back, "A republic, if you can keep it." Those words ring true to me today, and that is what today is about. So thank you for letting me go on my little tangent there. But I just wanted to say that.
Carlo, I thank you for sharing that, and I don't think Becky will.
I told you I get a little bit emotional.
I feel, for anyone who is listening to this and not watching us on YouTube, Carlo is tearing up. I actually got a little teary, Carlo. So thank you for that. And I think it's a good reminder that we can't take this for granted. You know what we have here in this country.
That's honestly a better way of putting it than even I said, Phil. That's what it is. We can't take it for granted. It's not a foregone conclusion that you are born into a country where you elect your representatives and your government every 4 years, and there's a peaceful transfer of power. And even if your person loses, that you know that the person on the other side is going to at least try to govern for the whole country instead of just the people who voted for them. It's not a foregone conclusion. We are lucky that we have that. And let's remember that.
I also wonder, and well said, Carlo, I also wonder, what was she watching? What American TV? I'm thinking The West Wing. Was she just like binging Aaron Sorkin?
I think it was more like, I don't know. No, I think I don't know the answer to that. I know when she was growing up, it was cartoons mostly, and that's how she learned English.
Oh.
But But she, she basically
an example
consumed,
of American democracy.
yeah. But she consumed American culture like a lot of kids around the world do, and that's where they get the idea of this country. We still basically deliver the most culture to the world. And it's just, I just always think about people like her out there, watching The West Wing or whatever it is, and thinking about, this place over the rainbow, right? That they could, if they rang the doorbell, we'd let them in, and if they worked hard, they could succeed.
All right, Carlo, let's leave it there. Hope everyone has a nice, safe election day. That's what you need to know for Tuesday, November 3rd.
Now go vote, folks. See you tomorrow.